A hot dog and a soda for $1.50. Sounds like nothing. Sounds like a rounding error. But that price has survived 4 decades, 2 recessions, a pandemic, and the worst inflation the country has seen in 40 years. Beef prices have doubled. Bun prices have climbed. Soda syrup, cups, napkins, labor, all of it has gotten more expensive. And yet, if you walk into a Costco food court today, in 2026, you will pay exactly what people paid in the 1980s. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. That's not even really about hot dogs. It's one of the most calculated psychological weapons in modern retail. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at that food court line the same way again. Here's the thing that should bother you. Costco is not a charity. It's a publicly traded company worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Its executives have a legal obligation to make money for shareholders. So why would a company that obsesses over every cent of margin let one product bleed money, year after year, decade after decade, without ever touching the price? Every other price at Costco moves. Gas prices change daily. Rotisserie chickens have crept up. Even the beloved $4.99 chicken has flirted with disaster behind the scenes. But the hot dog combo? Frozen in time. Employees have talked about it for years. Former executives have talked about it. And there's a story, one that's been repeated so many times it's practically Costco folklore, about what happens to anyone inside the company who even suggests raising that price. The story goes that when Craig Jelinek, who would go on to become CEO, once brought up the idea of raising the hot dog price, Costco's co-founder Jim Sinegal shut it down instantly and made it clear the price was never, under any circumstances, going up. That's not a business decision. That's a religious commandment. So what is it about $1.50 that's worth defending like it's sacred? To understand that, you have to go back to a business that doesn't even exist anymore. Before there was Costco, there was a company called Price Club. Founded in San Diego in 1976 by Saul Price, Price Club is where the entire warehouse club concept was born. Buy in bulk, strip away the fancy store design, sell to members only, and pass the savings straight to the customer. No frills, no advertising budget, just volume. In the 1980s, Price Club started selling hot dogs at its food courts for $1.50. It was simple. Cheap food for shoppers who were already spending their Saturday hauling giant packs of paper towels through a warehouse. Then, in 1993, something happened that reshaped American retail. Price Club merged with a company called Costco, a warehouse chain founded in Seattle by Jim Sinegal and Jeffrey Brotman just 9 years earlier, in 1983. The merger created what we now know as Costco Wholesale. And when the two companies combined, the $1.50 hot dog came along for the ride. Here's where it gets interesting. Instead of quietly retiring an old Price Club leftover, Costco's leadership treated that hot dog price like it was untouchable. Not just kept, protected. Why would a merged company hold on to a decades-old price from an acquired chain instead of adjusting it to modern costs, like literally everything else in the store? Because somewhere along the way, executives at Costco figured out something that most retailers never fully understand. The hot dog wasn't a menu item. It was a message. To understand the strategy, you need to understand how Costco actually makes money, because it is almost the opposite of how you'd assume a retailer works. Most stores make their profit on the products themselves. They buy something for $10, mark it up, sell it for $15. Costco barely does that. Costco caps its markup on nearly everything in the store at around 15%, sometimes lower, a policy that's been public knowledge for years. Compare that to a typical supermarket, which might mark products up 25 to 50% or more. So if Costco isn't making its money on products, where is the money actually coming from? Membership fees. Costco charges tens of millions of people an annual fee just for the privilege of shopping there. And that fee is almost pure profit. There's no cost of goods, no inventory, no shipping attached to it. Financial analysts have pointed out for years that a huge share of Costco's overall profit comes directly from membership renewals, not from selling you a 55-inch TV or a tub of almonds. This changes the entire incentive structure of the company. If your profit comes from selling individual items, you want every single item to be as profitable as possible. But if your profit comes from people renewing a membership year after year, your real goal shifts. You don't need every hot dog to make money. You need every member to feel like renewing their card was the smartest financial decision they made all year. The hot dog isn't the product. Trust is the product. And the hot dog is just the delivery mechanism. This is the same logic behind loss leaders in grocery stores, selling milk or eggs below cost to get people through the door. But Costco took the loss leader concept and turned it into something bigger, a permanent, public symbol of a promise. The promise that no matter what happens to prices everywhere else in the world, Costco will protect you from it. Think about what that actually does to a shopper's brain. You walk in. You see gas prices rising outside. You see grocery prices rising at every other store. Then you sit down, and for $1.50, you get exactly what you got 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That single moment recalibrates your trust in everything else in the store. If they're not gouging me here on a hot dog, they're probably not gouging me on the TV, or the mattress, or the tires either. It's not a coupon. It's proof. Costco isn't the only company that's figured out this trick, but it might be the one that's executed it most aggressively. Look at the rotisserie chicken. For years, Costco sold a fully cooked rotisserie chicken for $4.99, a price so low that reports have described the company actually losing money on every single bird sold, partly because of how much they pay chicken suppliers to guarantee a stable, consistent supply. Executives have publicly acknowledged that the chicken is intentionally priced as a loss to drive foot traffic. People don't come in just for the chicken, they come in, buy the chicken, and leave with a cart full of other things. Compare that to Amazon and the way it has historically priced products like the Kindle or certain devices, selling the hardware near or below cost, then making the real money afterward through content, subscriptions, or the broader ecosystem people get pulled into. Or look at IKEA's cinnamon buns and hot dogs, famously priced low enough that some analysts have joked IKEA makes more meaningful margin on the food court just keeping people in the building longer, wandering past furniture displays, than on the food itself. The pattern repeats across industries. Gyms that offer a shockingly cheap intro month, banks that offer free checking, streaming services with a rock-bottom entry tier. The individual product is a loss. The behavior it creates is the profit. But here's what makes Costco's hot dog different from almost every other example on this list. And this is the detail most people miss. Every other loss leader eventually gets adjusted. IKEA's food prices move, gym intro deals expire, streaming tiers get more expensive over time. Costco's hot dog is the rare example of a company treating a price freeze as a permanent brand asset, not a temporary promotion. That's not marketing. That's architecture. They built a piece of consumer psychology directly into the company's DNA and refused to let inflation, supply chain shocks, or shareholder pressure touch it. Which raises the real question. Numbers on a spreadsheet don't explain devotion like that. So what's actually going on in the customer's head? This is where the story stops being about hot dogs and starts being about how the human brain processes trust. Behavioral economists have a concept called an anchor, a reference price that shapes how we judge every other price around it. Once your brain locks onto a number, it uses that number as the baseline for fairness, even in situations that have nothing to do with the original anchor. The hot dog combo is Costco's anchor for the entire store. It's not there to make you buy hot dogs. It's there to recalibrate your sense of what fair feels like every single time you walk through those doors. There's also something psychologists call the signal of goodwill. When a company visibly refuses to raise a price, especially a price everyone already knows and expects, it sends a much stronger message than a company that quietly keeps prices low without anyone noticing. Visibility is the whole point. If nobody talked about the hot dog price, it wouldn't work nearly as well. The fact that it's become internet famous, that people write articles about it, that YouTubers make videos about it. All of that spreads the trust signal further than any ad campaign could. Then there's the membership renewal effect. Human beings hate feeling like they made a bad decision, especially a recurring one. Every year, a Costco member has to decide whether the membership fee was worth it. The hot dog, small as it is, becomes a tiny annual proof point. It's tangible. It's something you can hold in your hand and taste. Getting a filling meal for $1.50 is a much easier thing for your brain to latch onto than saving an estimated percentage on bulk detergent this year. And there's one more layer, maybe the most important one: certainty. In a world where prices seem to be in constant motion, where a coffee that cost $4 last year costs $5 this year, a static price becomes almost soothing. It's psychological stability. Costco isn't just selling you food, it's selling you the feeling that some things, at least, don't have to change. That feeling is worth more to Costco than any markup on a hot dog could ever be. Because trust doesn't show up on a single receipt. It shows up in the renewal rate, year after year, for tens of millions of members. Which is exactly why the company has been willing to eat rising costs on beef, buns, and labor for years, rather than touch the number. Let's actually sit with how strange this is from a pure numbers standpoint. Meat prices have risen substantially since the 1980s. Wages for food court workers have risen. Even the humble hot dog bun is more expensive to produce and ship than it used to be. Every single input cost behind that combo has moved upward, sometimes sharply, while the output price has not moved at all. There have been moments where the pressure to change it must have been intense. During periods of major supply chain disruption, when costs across the food industry spiked, you'd expect any rational retailer to quietly adjust. Instead, Costco reportedly took steps like bringing hot dog and bun production in-house at points, essentially engineering around rising supplier costs rather than passing those costs on to the customer. That's an enormous amount of operational effort just to protect a $1.50 price tag on a food court item that most shoppers don't even think twice about. But that's exactly the point. The effort is the strategy. A company willing to reroute its own supply chain rather than raise a hot dog price by even 50 cents is sending an unmistakable signal. We will absorb pain so you don't have to. Multiply that feeling across tens of millions of members, repeated every single visit, for over 3 decades, and you start to understand why this tiny, cheap, unglamorous menu item might be one of the most effective pieces of brand building in modern retail history. It costs Costco real money, and they've decided again and again that the cost is worth it. Here's what makes this bigger than a story about a hot dog. Every business you interact with is making a version of this same calculation, whether you notice it or not. Some companies choose to squeeze every possible cent out of every transaction. Others choose to sacrifice a small, visible piece of profit to build something much more valuable: your unquestioned trust. The companies that understand this tend to be the ones that build fanatical, almost irrational loyalty. Costco members don't just shop there. They defend the company in conversations. They recommend it to friends. They renew memberships without even checking what it costs, because the emotional math has already been done for them, $1.50 hot dog at a time. That's the real hidden industry here. Not warehouse retail, but the industry of engineered trust. An entire category of business decisions that look like they're losing money on paper, but are actually some of the most profitable moves a company can make because they're not selling a product. They're selling certainty in an uncertain world. And once you see it in Costco's hot dog, you start seeing it everywhere. The free samples, the generous return policy with famously few questions asked, the $4.99 chicken. Each one looks like generosity. Each one is actually a calculated investment in your loyalty. So the next time you're standing in that food court line, holding $1.50 for a hot dog and a soda, remember what you're actually paying for. You're not paying for meat or bread or carbonated syrup water. You're paying for a promise that a multi-billion-dollar company has decided is worth protecting, no matter what it costs them behind the scenes. That promise is why people don't just shop at Costco. They believe in it. And that might be the most valuable thing any company can build. Not the lowest price in the store, but the one price customers know with absolute certainty will never change. Because in a world where everything gets more expensive, the company that dares to stay the same becomes unforgettable.